Simcha, celebration, Simcha, Simcha, celebration of life.
Hello and welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. I'm your host, Aaron Halevi. In today's show, we attend the launch of the Sinai X in Cape Town, and Hugh Raichlin reminisces about his trip to Argentina. For the past 5 years, the National Sinai Indaba Convention has inspired thousands of people through a diverse mix of international Jewish speakers. This year saw the launch of Sinai X, where hundreds of people gathered in one room to learn one of our sacred texts, to discuss and debate and share their opinions, just as Jews have been doing for millennia.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends, it's so inspiring to see so many of you here today. A Jewish community that is a shining example and a source of inspiration, not only to ourselves, but to Jews all around the world. We always come out in such numbers and with such enthusiasm. For Sinai Indaba and today for Sinai X and for the Shabbos Project, we've inspired Jews throughout the world, and we inspire ourselves, and thank you so much for coming this morning. Look around you. Look at the people at your table. Look across the hall, and you will see the largest collaborative learning space, what we Jews call a Beit Midrash, that we have come together sitting with family and with friends, with members of Cape Jury. Last week we were in Johannesburg and then in Durban, and today in Cape Town, and we all come together. And to do so, we come together to join the generations of Jews who came before us, who learned like we are going to learn today, at a table, with a book, with texts, with debate, with opinions, where your opinion counts so much. And as Jews, we always have an opinion, and we hold our opinions so dear and so strong, and that is what Jewish learning has always been about. It's not like Western-style learning where we sit back and listen passively only to a lecture, but that we sit across the table with family and friends, and we debate and discuss and delve into the amazing words of our heritage. And this morning, we are going to learn one of the great favorites and treasures of Jewish history. A book that has been in Jewish homes and Jewish hearts for thousands of years. Today we're going to learn together Pirkei Avot, and we are going to be joined in that conversation with voices and ideas of our friends, but also from voices and ideas of our amazing speakers. We're also going to be hearing from the voices and ideas of Jews who have lived throughout the ages. We join this incredible conversation that began generations ago, and we participate in that.
The first exhortation of the members of the Great Assembly, the Anshe Knesset HaGedola, in this very first Mishnah of Pirkei Avos, have a Misunim Badin. The simple surface meaning refers to a judge in a court of law who has to be patient and deliberate before issuing a verdict. And I asked a very expert, experienced judge, Judge Goldstein, who happens to be the father of the chief rabbi, how he understood this Mishnah. What does it mean for a judge to be patient? And he told me that a judge has to keep an open mind and not to jump to conclusions until all the evidence is heard. So that is the simple surface meaning of this Mishnah.
If you turn over your page and your pads, you will see that we're going to be focusing on the art of decision making. On each headphone, there's a talk which is about 10 minutes. To listen, you choose between them. As you are going through it, you'll see over the page, depending on what you chose, there's sources to go through. And then as soon as you have heard your talk, there will be an opportunity to to debate at your tables around a question that's going to appear on the screens. Okay, so enjoy and have fun.
You make a life decision, it needs to be clear. What pulls you down? The faculty of doubt. We do not know how to make clear decisions. Let's talk about some of the principles. Let me say very clearly the major approach that we have to life decisions, and then we'll try to break it down and go into its parts. Here's the order of business. When you need to make a life decision, whether it is moving home, getting married, buying something that's more expensive or less expensive, all of these types of questions, any major and taxing life decision should be broken down into two principles. The two principles are, number one, take out the nagiyas, and number two, clarify the tzdodim. Let me explain those. Take out the nagiyas means remove from the decision-making process all the ulterior motives and vested interests. What we mean by a nagiya is something that is touching you in a way that biases your thinking.
Well, Rabbi Tatz excellent. Was able to synthesize a very, very important issue around decision-making in a short time, giving us a way to actually act on it, and that's why, hence, we're still discussing now on the importance of making decisions and how to make them, and he's a brilliant analyst, and he can just analyze things. He really is brilliant.
Writing the things on a piece of paper is just taking it out of the emotions that inside you, or in your thoughts that can confuse you in your head. And then when you put it down, it will be much easier to make the right decision and to follow what you actually want to do.
And he's able to adapt his way of speaking to the various audiences that he has. So when he talks to kids, he can relate, and when he talks to adults, he can relate.
I enjoyed some of what he said about asking advice from others, not necessarily those that are in the know, but others to get a different subjective opinion. I thought that was really good.
Welcome back. Aptly described by Chief Rabbi Warren Goldstein as the world's biggest Beit Midrash, study hall, Sinai X took the concept of learning Torah to a whole new level that was more immersive, interactive, and participative.
The Mishnah in Avot says there are three things that ruin our lives. Hakina, hata'ava, v'hakavod. Envy, desire, and kavod. Isn't it interesting that the book of Bereshit begins with defining responsibility and then telling us the three main weaknesses that we all possess? If only we could overcome them, we would be happy people. If we could control our desire, if we weren't bothered by honor, and if we were not envious of people. And having described these three weak traits of the human being, we are introduced to Abraham. And Abraham is a man of love, a man of chesed, a man of giving, a man who will open his tent to anyone. It is the first attribute the Torah describes. Not academics, not depth of learning, love. Love and belief.
Pick up your headphones. We're choosing here. The red channel is Rabbi David Aaron. The green channel is Rebbetzin Lori Palatnik. The blue channel is David Sachs. The sources for each one of the speakers can be found in the sheets. After you've listened on your headphones, then there will be a question on the screen for discussion, followed by a next break. Enjoy, have fun.
The first Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says to be deliberate in judgment, to stand up many students, and to make a fence for the Torah. We are going to talk about standing up many students. Harbe Talmidim Vehamidu. Harbe means many, Talmidim, students, and Vehamidu, to stand up. Now, sometimes people translate it is to establish many students, but it really means to stand up. What does that mean? First of all, let's rewind to why many? Why would you want to reach many students. On first glance, of course, listen, we want to share wisdom with as many people as possible. But sometimes we talk about quality versus quantity. Like, would it be better for us to have a small Shabbat table where we really get to know people? Or should we have a large Shabbat table and expose as many people to Shabbat as possible?
Why does the Mishnah list establishing many students as core value? What can you tell us, Ray? Well, I was very interested in this Torah learning because it is true. I go to synagogue every Saturday morning, and the more I listen to the parasha of every week, you cannot believe what it teaches you. And that was so many thousand years ago, and it's relevant to this day.
So establishing many students, you're talking about numerical. You want numbers, because many is in students, so you have talking about numbers, and you're talking about students as value, or people that are studying the values and Judaism and building up.
Of those interactions, and the Friday night Shabbat is one of the significant ones where it's the glue of the nation. They teach around the table, they encourage, they bless, they do everything around that table on a regular basis.
We listened to Rabbi Millstone, and I think he was fantastic in his English sense of humor that he said he was ashamed of. I think it was fantastic. He's a brilliant guy, and he gave me a lot of reason to delve more deeply.
What does it mean to lead and live a blessed life? It means that I open my heart to you. I allow you to enter, and so you allow me to enter your heart. It means that I forge friendships. I create connections of the soul. I create relationships that endure throughout time. To lead a blessed life means that when we create friendships, we're not speaking about friends on a Facebook page where you have 656 friends, but in the middle of the night, there's no one to take your call. It means that all my sorrows become so much lighter, and my joys become so much sweeter because you, my friend, you are in my life. And that is a life filled with blessing.
Who is the man who desires life and long days that he may see good? Guard your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceitfully. Turn from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. This quote inspired a beloved rabbi, the Chafetz Chaim, to undertake Mission Impossible, a crusade against rumors, hate speech, to get people to desist from rumor-mongering, even when the information itself is true. In fact, the Chafetz Chaim was building on many biblical admonitions about draconian penalties that await anyone who is engaged in the food chain of Lashon Hara, of evil talk. The Talmud, in Erchin 15b, states that anyone involved in negative speech could be subject to physical afflictions. Forbidden speech, we are taught, already altered human and Jewish history.
Sinai X has really been about giving people a new experience, experiencing the texts for themselves, to learn in a Beit Midrash style with around tables, family and friends engaging together, and it's been about finding that inspiration and wisdom for yourself and not just being reliant on a speaker. And so the interaction, having wonderful guest speakers as well as interacting together, there's just been such a tremendous spirit in the room today and throughout the last week of all of the Sinai X in the various cities. There's been just such a wonderful sense of inspiration that people have gained from one another.
I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I prefer it this way than to the previous one.
And the technology is amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. Because you learn something and then you have time to discuss it with the people at your table and consolidate what you've learned while listening to the audio.
This Rabbi David Aaron is an incredible lecturer. Absolutely. I could listen to him for another hour.
And I think it's a fantastic experience, the Sinai in Darwin. It's great to be here.
It's been such an inspiring day, and I think that people really brought a tremendous energy. It's been amazing. Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town now completing the full cycle of cities, and people have so enjoyed it. They enjoyed engaging with one another, they enjoyed engaging with the Mishnah, all in an atmosphere of inspiration, of wisdom, of beautiful music, of really coming together, unity, and really a tremendous spirit. And that's what's been so inspiring and so uplifting.
Continuing with our successful series, Heritage Travels with Hugh Raichlin. Hugh takes us on a journey to explore the Jewish community of Argentina. 85% of the Jews in Argentina are Ashkenazi, descending from France, Germany, and Eastern Europe. The remaining 15% are Sephardic, descending from the Iberian Peninsula, the Middle East, and North Africa.
The first wave of Jews to immigrate to Argentina was in around 1492 to 1498. And that, of course, was the time of the Spanish Inquisition in Spain. 1492, the Jews were expelled from Spain, and 1498 from Portugal, and they went across the Atlantic Ocean to settle in the Americas. The second major wave of immigration into Argentina was in the 1850s, where more Jews came from Spain and they also came from France. One must remember that Argentina is a very large country, and it had a very small population of mainly Spaniards that had come out in the early days, and they were desperate for immigrants to come in and to establish the country. The third wave of Jewish immigrants into Argentina was in the late 1800s, and it was inspired by Baron Maurice de Hirsch, also known as Moshe or Moses de Hirsch. He was a great philanthropist, and 824 Jewish families moved to Mosesville, where they built a synagogue, and they were involved in farming and raising horses. And in fact, there was even a man by the name of Butch Bernstein, was known as one of the first Jewish gauchos. And they were people that were involved in raising, breeding, and training horses in Argentina, which is still a well-known industry to this very day. Between the years 1906 to 1912, there were also large migrations from Morocco, Europe, and the Ottoman Empire, where approximately 13,000 Jews per year were coming into Argentina to settle and establish the Jewish community. So that by the 1920s, Argentina had a Jewish community of approximately 150,000 souls. In 1938, Argentina closed its doors to Jewish immigration, which was a great tragedy, because that was the time when European Jews were desperately seeking ways out of Europe, away from the advancing Nazis. Juan Perón, after the Second World War in about 1946, allowed many Nazis that had run away from Europe to hide in Argentina. During the 1950s and 1960s, you had a great rise in anti-Semitism in Argentina, where there were very often street fights, there was vandalizing of Jewish cemeteries and synagogues. In the late 1960s, early 1970s, you had a Jewish population in Argentina of approximately 300,000 souls. Buenos Aires is a beautiful city, and many say that it is reminiscent of some of the nicest European cities, with the architecture, wide streets, and beautiful parks. In Buenos Aires, we saw a beautiful synagogue, one of the oldest synagogues in Argentina, the Templo Libertad in Recoleta. I also visited Once, And I happened to arrive on the day of Purim, a Jewish festival, when it is traditional to dress up in fancy dress, and it was beautiful to see mothers and children and fathers walking the streets in their fancy dress. I was also quite amazed to see when I walked past one of the police stations in one of the Jewish areas that the word Mishtara was written in Hebrew on the sign that indicated that it was a police station, which really gives an indication as to how well settled the Jewish community is in certain areas in Buenos Aires.
Welcome back. Today, Argentina is home to around 250,000 Jews, making it the 7th largest Jewish community in the world and the biggest in Latin America. The number of Jewish inhabitants in Buenos Aires is equal to the combined Jewish populations of Brazil, Chile, Mexico, and Uruguay.
The Jewish community today in Argentina is approximately 250,000 strong. Many Argentinian Jews have emigrated to Israel very successfully. There are approximately 50 operational synagogues in Buenos Aires today. The community is about 80% Ashkenazi and 20% Sephardi. One evening, we went to a restaurant in Buenos Aires, a kosher restaurant, and of course, we all know how wonderful the Argentinian meat is, and it was certainly no disappointment when we had chorizo, which is a large, very tasty sausage made with wonderful spices. We had chops and steaks, but probably the most moving aspect of the evening was that there was a bachelor party taking place in the restaurant that evening, and none of the people involved in the bachelor party could actually speak English, but we understood by speaking a little bit of Hebrew that the one man was celebrating with his friends the fact that he was going to get married the next day. Spontaneously, our group linked arms with this party of young men that were there celebrating with their friend, and we all danced around the restaurant singing Hebrew songs and sharing the joy of that occasion. And it just brought home to me the beautiful sense of family, that although we are Jewish communities on different sides of the globe, in this particular instance, the different sides of the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, we are bound by a history and by a culture and a value system that really makes us a family wherever we are. We then took a trip to La Boca Stadium to see where the famous Maradona played his soccer. And not far from the stadium, we were shown a most beautiful Sephardi synagogue, which is in really excellent condition. We were given an opportunity to walk inside and to see the beautiful architecture. And although the general area around the synagogue is not what it used to be in its heyday, the very proud congregants of this old Sephardi synagogue still maintain minyanim, they still maintain services through the week and maintain their building and are very proud of their origins and their Sephardi connection to the Middle East. And I found a number of parallels between life in Argentina and South Africa with similar climatic conditions, the fact that we like to have braais and enjoy our meat. And of course, an illustrious South African connection is that Tony Leon, a former leader of the Democratic Alliance in South Africa and also head of the opposition, was appointed to be the ambassador to Argentina, and he did great credit to not only the South African government, but to the Jewish community as well.
Well, that's all we have for this week's episode of Simcha, a celebration of life. As always, we'd love to hear from you, so please send us a message on Facebook at Spirit Sister Productions. From me, Aaron Halevi, and the rest of the Simcha team, have a wonderful week ahead.